minutes.
Okay, you can go now.
Okay, good morning, everybody. This is Nikki Hill, Executive Sales Director. I don't know where to look, so I'm just I'll look up and try to do this. So Heidi is, wow, you guys, if you haven't been on Facebook, go on Facebook, because something I've always heard from Sean Key, and it's so important, is to live in your imagination, not in your reality. Live in your imagination, not in your reality. And so I love looking at those pictures of the Nationals on their, you guys, private yacht. That's where they are. They have private suites. They each have their own butler. It just looks amazing. And so let your brain go to where you can dream and to live in those possibilities and to know that everything is worth it. And so what I wanted to share with you all this morning is everything. I'm going to share a lot with you that I learned from Stacey James, and some of these things you've heard, but you know what, even reading them through again today, I've talked to a couple people about these things, and it just hit home again today. And so I was privileged to go to Miami a few weeks ago. It was for executives and elites. There were 90 women there, and we had Lily, I'm going to say her name wrong, Lily Gertrude there. We had Stacey James, we had Patricia Turker, Sonia Paez, Daisha Wiegand was there, and Ari Hathaway, just in the audience. You guys, they didn't present. They were just there to learn themselves. And what I really realized by observing them, because they live in Miami, that they didn't have to come because they weren't presenting, but they came because mentors crave leadership. And, you know, a leader is never in hiding. And so remember that, you guys, as you're, you know, looking at people, who do I work with? You know, who wants to be in my space? Leaders are never in hiding. And so it was an amazing event. I got to stay with Susan McCoy, my friend that I've met on top director trips, and her husband, Jeff, and my husband are good friends. And so Susan and I stayed together. I got to hang out with Becky Mueller, who picked me up from the airport and took me to South Beach. And it was just a fun experience, you guys. I reconnected with Audrey Dollar. Just, you know, different people from across the country, and everybody's in different places. And just, I'm going to share with you a lot about what Stacey James shared. And then I'm going to tell you about a chapter in a book that she told us to read. And I actually read it this morning. And wow, it just like opened my eyes again to why I'm doing this, why I don't quit. You guys, sometimes, you know, we go through things. You know, yesterday I got some bad news, you know, so to speak. And I know we've often heard this, that there's a difference between something good not happening and a difference between something bad happening. And, you know, one of my consultants who I really believe in, and I don't know if I can sing her song back to her today. I'm going to give you guys some words. Maybe you have consultants in this stage where I'm going to try to sing her song back to her. But if I can't, you guys, I just, you know, if she chooses not to do Mary Kay anymore, that's something good not happening. Because I think if she pushed through, she would be great. And I think for a lot of us, you guys, we just have to push through. You know, you have days where you need to push through. You have minutes where you need to push through. And if you haven't gone through that emotional wheel lately, we trained on this last night in our meeting, do it. Because we as sales directors are going through this emotional wheel all the time. And the difference between us and consultants is that just basically we can do it faster because we have better emotional management. So to share with you from Stacey James, I'm going to just go through my notes and my highlighted notes with you, because her opening session is where I really think that I gained the most, and where I think it would benefit maybe some of you guys the most this morning. And, you know, if you're on, you can box for me later. Let me know if it benefited you at all. And I didn't have anybody in mind except myself when I was doing this. So if you're going through some of these things, I get it. And hopefully this will, you know, help you today on this Tuesday. So basically she said, leave behind frustration. She said, filter through the frustration and do it now through excitement. And she said, the best gift that we can give our units is inspired women. And I really thought about that. The best gift that you can give your unit is an inspired woman. Leaders who have no one to lead drain themselves. And that was interesting too. I'm like, oh my goodness. And you know what? God blessed me with a phone call from my consultant in Michigan last night who's like, Nikki, all these things are happening to my team and these things are happening to me too. And I had 7 parties cancel last week. And you guys, personally, I had 5 parties cancel on Saturday. 5. I had 1 booked at 3. I booked another one. She canceled. I booked another one. You guys, Friday night then, my 3 of 3 that I booked canceled. I mean, hello, that's like crazy, right? But I was blessed because her conversation was, Nikki, she read the chapter 6 in Mary Kay's autobiography. And she said, Nikki, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up. And it just inspired me. And I told her, I said, Tanya, you were a blessing more to me on this phone call than I was to you. But leaders who have no one to lead drain themselves. So first off, you guys, we just have to get our head in the right place. We have to claim the reality. We have to put ourselves in the physiology of championship mentality and create your reality with how much I'm in control of my thoughts. Just because somebody might want to quit Mary Kay doesn't mean that that's going to be my reality. That's what I talked to Tanya about. I'm like, oh my gosh, if I would have quit years ago, when Bethany, my director, quit a day before a seminar, I wouldn't have Amanda in my life. I wouldn't have her amazing team in my life, all these other women, all the women that I've recruited since then. And, who knows, would Mary McIntosh have become a director? I mean, just, all these different things, you guys, that we just don't know. And so sometimes we just have to realize that person's not in control of my future. That circumstance, those 5 parties canceling, that's not my reality, you guys, because I get to create my own reality. I can book more appointments. I don't have to stay in that reality. That's what's so amazing about this business. Thinking controls your brain. It also controls your health. That was interesting as well. And we can affect people positively or negatively. Our energy will change responses. So who's responding to your energy? Isn't that an interesting question? We need to have the right energy. I wrote down, Nikki Hill, I need to have the right energy. I need to have the thoughts and energy in the right place. And what she talked about, Stacy, she talked about how she went to this training. And there was this energy guru, and he actually studies like your body's chemical energy, your power versus force. And he said that, if you have a neutral energy of 200, that those are the people, you guys, that people don't notice. It's like they're an invisible person in the room. Nobody could tell you if they were there or if they weren't there. And he said that he studied Mary Kay's energy, you guys, and her energy was at a 750 vibration, her words, her voice. And Stacey said that's why she could just walk out on the stage, not say a word, but people would start crying. People would start cheering. Emotions would come out. And she said, how do you raise your energy level? How do you get it from a 200 of just being there into higher like Mary Kay did? And she said, through an attitude of gratitude. Through an attitude of gratitude. She said, stop working out of frustration and filtering it through negativity. You guys, on Saturday, I could have lived that day in frustration and negativity. And I chose not to. I chose to be grateful for the one facial that held. And she came as my guest last night, you guys, and she's going to become a beauty consultant. And so that's really the key. She said, I'm grateful for high energy. I'm not here by accident. Be strong, raise that energy level. She said, if you need to have an exercise to raise your attitude of gratitude, make a list of 5 reasons Mary Kay is great. And know why you are a top sales director. List why you're a Cadillac sales director. List why you're a national sales director. And she said you're going to be more effective as a national, as a top director when you develop this emotional energy. Okay, so she also said that there are, I'm going to go to this next part. And some of you guys heard me train on this, but I want to repeat it because I think it's so important. And I think everybody who's listening to this, you guys have a level 4 dedication. You have a level 4 dedication. And she said our confidence gets low, and that's when we resort to what we know and we aren't as productive. So you guys, we kind of have to self-assess. We've talked a lot about self-coaching. And this whole weekend, we studied our 5 strengths. And what I really learned is that it's not about me studying your strengths. And that's kind of where I took it when I first did this. I had my consultants all do it or my leaders. And I said, okay, let's discuss your strengths so that I would know their strengths. You guys, that's not why you take that StrengthsFinder test. It is to just know your own personal strengths, which are talents. There are innate talents. I look at my kids and they're both in sports, but and my kids would tell you this, Morgan does not have the innate talent like in basketball. She's coachable. She can play hard. She can try hard. She can do it to the best of her ability. But when she's dribbling down that court, she doesn't feel like if somebody's coming up to her next. She doesn't feel like what play she should do. She just doesn't have that innate talent. Aiden, on the other hand, he's dribbling through his legs, whatever, but he like feels the presence of people around him. He knows when to pass it. He knows when to drive. He's also coachable, but he just has that innate talent. And so it was really cool to hear about your strengths and to not apologize for them and to not look at somebody else's. You guys, 1 in 34 million people have the exact 5 strengths as you in the exact 5 order. 1 in 34 million. And so it was just kind of like a breath of fresh air. It's like, this is who I am. One of my strengths is maximizer. One of them is achievement. You guys, it means I have a hard time relaxing. Even on vacation, I have a 6 most important list. It's so true. And so it's like, you don't have to apologize for who you are. And a lot of times we think that, right? When somebody quits or we get discouraged by something, we think, what did I do wrong? Sometimes you guys, you didn't do anything wrong. This is who you are. This is how God made you. And you're going to work in your strengths and just embrace that. So the whole weekend was not about studying everybody else's strengths. I have a whole book, you guys. It's like this thick. And it's just about my strengths, how I can work in my strengths and not apologize for who you are, you guys. And that was like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, for making me and for giving me these talents and to go work in those talents, to really hone in on your talents, you guys. DISC was interesting. They said DISC is your behavior, the DISC, and your behavior changes over time. If you guys have taken that test, when I first took it when I was 24 years old, I was a brand new sales director. I took it and I was high D, high I, no S, no C. And I looked, I cheated. I looked at the paper of the director next to me and I looked at her scores and they were all even. And she was a Cadillac director. And you guys, that was a brain change. And I looked at that and I thought, oh, I can change my behavior. I can raise my S. I can raise my I. I can lower my D. I can lower my I. I can change that behavior, you guys. You can't change your strengths. Those are talents that you were born with. So I just want you to feel free today to be like, oh my gosh, I am who I am, and I get to control my thoughts. So the 4 levels of dedication. I want to go through this again next, expand on it a little bit. Number 1 is the level of dedication is I'm going to participate as long as there's something in it for me. So, she compared it to like going to church on Sunday. If the sermon's good this week, oh good, I'll probably come back then because I got filled up. It's not just because you're dedicated to go to church. It's like, ooh, that was a good sermon. I like that pastor this week. I'm going to go back and hear him. I think about like sales meetings. Like last week we had corporate come in for 2 days and I had a lot of consultants there that I don't see on a regular basis because they knew corporate was coming. And so what's in it for me? They came some just to support it and others to get a prize. So, think about that. Number 2 level of dedication is people will grasp onto a movement, a cause or dream as long as they can do it comfortably. And when I trained on this, one of my consultants who does want to become a sales director, she wasn't registered for seminar. And I talked about seminar and I said, seminar isn't always convenient. And I shared the story of when my first seminar, you guys, Morgan was 7 months old. We were living in Austin. We had no family. I had to get childcare through friends from church. Ryan was on a mission trip to Arizona. I actually came in late. I actually missed a day of seminar because I didn't want to leave her that long. And, but the day I was leaving, like the next day, I actually had been shopping and I left my wallet at the store. The store found my wallet, but it had been gone through. And I didn't know this for a few hours. So I went to my bank. I was trying to get out money. I was trying to stop checks. All in tow, carrying this baby around, trying to figure out I was leaving the next day, you guys, for seminar. And I remember my last check that I wrote was to church. And so I called the church treasurer, and you guys, it was amazing. Like my phone was blowing off the hook because people are like, do you need money? Do you need a credit card? We know you're going out of town. We know Ryan's gone, all these things. And then the store called me and they'd actually found my wallet. I still had to cancel my credit cards and everything. Only the cash was gone, but at least I had my driver's license. And so you guys, level 2 people, when things like that happen, they bail. Okay. And maybe you guys have experienced this. I know personally I've experienced this. Probably every seminar, every career conference, right? Somebody cancels at the last minute. It's because their level of dedication, you guys, is probably a level 2. Something got uncomfortable. They don't show up to a sales meeting because their sitter canceled. They didn't get somebody else, but their one option canceled and they weren't willing to go the extra mile. That's level 2 dedication. Level 3 dedication is you buy into the dream and you give your heart to it. You give your heart to it. And you guys are sales directors. So you're already a level 3 director. And sometimes you guys it wavers, and that's where we have to really look at who are you? Who are you? Who do you claim to be? You know, you guys, and level 4 is you give your heart, your soul, and your guts to women you lead. And sometimes you guys, that's painful because you give a lot. You know, yesterday when I got this email from a consultant who, you know, may not be in Mary Kay anymore, my heart sank because I have given her. I was just kind of going through my brain. I was going through that emotional wheel. And I was at that angry stage, so I did not contact her yesterday. So I'm better today. But I was going through that and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, we throw our hearts over the line for people. And, you know, Stacey James really talked about that. She said, leadership, it's not always easy because that's who you are, you guys. You throw your hearts over the line for people. You give to them. You sacrifice things. You give up things, you know, to help people. And we've all done that. We've sacrificed, you know, time with our families at certain times. We've sacrificed different things. And, but you know what? It is worth it. When you look at those pictures of those nationals, when you look at that, and I'm going to tell you what book Stacey James read. And I actually had this book and I hadn't read it. And she told me which chapter to read. And I'm going to share that in a minute. But one thing she said, you guys, is you're a level 3 or 4 before you become a director. You guys, you're a level 3 or 4 before you become a national. It's not that you become a national sales director or a top director and then all of a sudden your level of dedication increases, you guys. You're either a 1, 2, 3, or 4. And that's how you know you're going to be where you want to be in your business. And she said, when you're struggling, and I read this chapter this morning, her national, Jan Harris, told her to read this. It's called Ordering Your Private World. And Jan said to read chapter 5, and it says, living as a called person. And some of you have known that I've struggled with that when people say, are you called to do this? Are you called to do that? In this chapter, you guys, it really talks about the difference between driven people and called people. You guys, a driven person is they're going to project confidence as they forge ahead with their achievement-oriented life plan. But often at the moment when it is least expected, adversities and obstructions conspire, there can be a personal collapse. In other words, you guys, we've worked with those people, right? They're driven, you know, but something happens and then all of a sudden they're gone. Like poof, all of a sudden they quit. They're not there anymore. She said, called people, on the other hand, possess strength from within, a quality of perseverance and power that are impervious to the blows from without. In other words, they don't stop. They don't stop. You guys, you know, Mary Kay said that the United States was the land of opportunity, but she believed that Mary Kay was the opportunity of the land. And Stacey James really talked about that. She shared stories about Mary Kay, and she said, are you sold yourself, not just on this product, but are you sold on this opportunity, that this is one of the best opportunities for women today? She shared a story of Mary Kay when she went to New York City and she was awarded the Female Entrepreneur of the Year award. And when she went in, she went up and she talked to every woman in the room. And I think the next year, you guys, she brought gifts to everybody, you know, because, you know, the next year you hand it off. And Stacey was just painting that picture of how she went around and she introduced herself and she made every woman feel special. When Mary Kay went back the next year, when she was awarding the prize, every woman, you know, her assistant, I can't remember his name, but he said that every woman in the room came up to Mary Kay and they were like thanking her because she didn't just, you know, affirm them in person, you guys. She went home and sent them notes. of course. And they all went up to her. And it was like she was the celebrity, but because of how she made people feel. And you guys, that year, she handed off the Female Entrepreneur Award to Oprah Winfrey. And so, you guys, you know what Stacey said is just imagine that. If you don't think that Mary Kay had influence on Oprah Winfrey, we're wrong. Because Oprah was observing. Oprah is a very talented leader. And I bet you she observed all those women coming up to Mary Kay and how Mary Kay made them feel, you know, important. An imaginary sign around their head that makes them feel important. And when I was talking to my consultant, Tanya, you know, who had 7 parties booked last week and they all canceled, she said, Nikki, I read chapter 6 in Mary Kay's autobiography. She actually has it on audio in her car. And she said that whole chapter talked about adversity. And what are you going to do when it happens? See, Tanya, you guys, is not at a level 1 or 2. She's dealing with consultants who are. And so she's working through that to try to figure out if they're a level 3 or level 4. But she's realizing that. But she's also realizing about herself that she's a level 3, level 4 dedication, you guys. And those are the women we want to work with. Those are the women we get to work with. And those are the women we're going to attract. That's what Stacey really talked about. When we are a level 4 dedication, you guys, we are going to attract those people. And what can you do to improve that level of dedication? It's that attitude of gratitude. And then the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is the 7 layers of leadership. And this is what Sean talked about. And this is also in that book. In that one chapter that I read this morning, it was all about that too. Number 1, identity is key. Self-awareness, who you are, you guys, your strengths, who you are in Christ. You know, doing what we do is a reflection of who we believe we are. What people do is a reflection of who they believe they are. That's why, you know, we do the 4 Ps, right? When we talk to new consultants, you know, tell me about yourself. Tell me about a time when you felt successful. What makes you feel, you know, strong? That was key, you guys, is knowing your strengths is doing what makes you feel strong will give you power. Doing what makes you feel strong. So in Mary Kay, what makes you feel strong? Do you feel strong at your parties? Do you feel strong at career chats? I feel strong, you guys, when I'm helping somebody move up in the business. That's when I feel the strongest. That's when I'm not even looking at production, you know, and I had that realization. For me, it used to be doing the party. That doesn't make me feel strong anymore. But watching somebody, having a conversation with Tanya where I can see that she's a level 4, you know, dedication, that makes me feel strong. That makes me feel powerful. You guys, do in your business more what makes you feel strong, because then you're working in your strengths. And that was really exciting. So number 1 is identity. That's the first layer of leadership. Number 2 is others. You know, so it's self and then others. Our job, this is what I loved. Our job is to ask questions. It's not to figure people out. You guys like my mug? Thank you, Jesus, right? Our job is to ask questions, not to figure people out. Our job isn't to fix people, okay? Or to think, you know, sometimes I've had those conversations, oh my gosh, I just can't think like her, okay? We don't have to. Our job is just to ask questions, not to figure people out. Number 3 layer of leadership is relationships. And, you know, of course, he said, what's the most important word, you know, the most important thing about relationships? And I yelled out, trust. You guys, that's the most important ingredient. Trust. And when he said, when we're working with others, when we're building those relationships, sound like them. This is where this comes in hand. Sound like them when we're coaching. Don't sound like ourselves. And I think that just, you know, I'm still working on that. You know, it takes practice. You know, that's why you ask questions, so you can repeat it back to them. So what I'm hearing you say, sound like them. He always comes up to me and he goes, Nikki, you need to speak Tammy. You know, he knows Tammy, my sister. He goes, when you're talking to Tammy, you need to speak Tammy. And so that's what he means, you guys. So when I'm, you know, when Heidi's talking to you, she needs to speak, you know, Becky. She needs to speak, you know, Brianna. So when we're coaching people, you guys, you need to speak their language. Are you willing to help them be successful in their way? And are you willing to be transparent? Are you willing to share your struggles with them when they're going through them? And that's important, you guys. You know, I think about that. I don't share all the struggles because I just don't remember them. I don't remember, you know, last night at our sales meeting, I mean, I was sharing stories about skincare class, and I just remembered I backed into one of my hostess's cars one time. You know, my profit, I had to pay her deductible. You know, I don't remember those things, you guys, until somebody's going through something. And then that's where you pull out your stories. That's where you pull out your experiences. And, you know, sometimes people say, well, why didn't you share this with me before? Because, you guys, I really don't remember them. I don't remember, you know, bad things, you know, so to say, that have happened because I don't dwell on those things. So I try to explain that to them, like, you know, those are the things that really keep me going during the day. But of course, I've had those same experiences, and you share those at those opportune times. So they said that the 3 things at the end of a phone call, and I'm going to put this on a sticky note by my phone or by my computer. The 3 things that people should be left with at the end of a phone call with you, a coaching call, is that number 1, their trust grew. Number 2, she has more confidence in herself. And number 3, she has more hope in the future. So number 1, her trust grew. Number 2, she has more confidence in herself. And number 3, more hope in the future. So those would be 3 great things to just put on a sticky note by your computer whenever you're doing your phone calls, and remember that. Did I increase her trust? Does she have more confidence in herself? And does she have more hope for the future? Number 4, you guys, is influence. So number 1 is your identity, the 7 layers of leadership. 2 is others. 3 are relationships. 4 is influence, bringing out the best in others. And you guys, the coach doesn't have to be an expert at the game. You know, you don't have to do national court of sales. And you know, some people will say that, you know, you can't teach where you have not been. But you know what? Think about great coaches. You know, great basketball coaches, great football coaches. They weren't always the best on the field, you guys, but they had influence. They could bring out the best in others. So just because you haven't done national court of sales doesn't mean you can't coach somebody to do national court of sales. Just because you haven't done national court of sharing doesn't mean you can't coach somebody. If you feel you need to do that, then that's yourself, right? That's your first layer of leadership. That's your own self-evaluation saying, no, I need to do this. This is my strength, this is what I'm going to go do. Then that's, you know, you figure that out on your own. But just know that you can have influence other ways. Help people think highly of themselves. Coaches work from the inside out. People perform at the level they see themselves, right? You know, I have a sign that I had Morgan made for me, and it's in a frame, and it says, my job is to build confidence. My job is to build confidence. That's what we get to do as leaders. The 5th layer, you guys, is coaching. Coaching. Coaching is developing strengths. I love that because sometimes I get confused. Why am I coaching this person? Coaching is developing strengths. That's it. Because when somebody knows that they're working in their strength, they are then willing to go book the 10 parties. You know, coaching isn't just telling them to book 10 parties, you guys. That's not it. Number 6, you guys, is multiplication. Leaders develop leaders. Leaders develop leaders. And number 7, you guys, is legacy. And he said legacy isn't tied to retirement, to death. It's subjected to who people are, and we raise leaders up by making a personal experience with people. He said, be a legacy leader now. You don't have to wait, you guys. Mary Kay was a legacy leader when she was alive, you guys, and she's a legacy leader now. And then I just want to close with this, you guys, because you might have people, and I'm doing this today, you know, and I'm going to pray about it, and I'm going to ask that God to give me the wisdom and the words to say to some certain people, because I'm gonna have some tough conversations with people today, because I don't know their level of dedication. But you know, I'm gonna find that out, you guys. And if they have a level 1 or 2 dedication, you know, it's hard to raise that. You know, it's hard to raise that belief in people to 3 or 4, because that's kind of who they are, right? I mean, think about that, you guys. You've had struggles, you've had things. You guys on this Google Hangout, you're a level 3, level 4 dedication, you know. And so maybe I need to, I realize I'm going to work on myself more so that I can attract more level 3, level 4 dedicated people. Remember, a leader is never in hiding. And like Sean Key says, you never have to convince a champion to play. And so today, you guys, in conversations, my goal isn't to convince anybody, but this is what I'm going to be saying to people. And this is from Stacey James. She said, sometimes we just need to sing somebody's song back to them. And I know we've all been in this place before. I know that Heidi's had to sing my song back to me. When you know someone, you guys, you don't have to ask them to do anything. And so, get to know your people. She said it's worth it. It is sometimes messy. I know that was one of my limiting beliefs, but it is worth it. It is so worth it. But she said this, you guys. And I want you just to think about this, and you can write it down or just ponder it. But this is a conversation I'm going to have with somebody today. I'm not just your friend, I'm your leader. I'm not just your friend, I'm your leader. I want you to get your song back. I know your gifts, your talents, and what you want. And maybe this is why you've forgotten. Maybe, and you can go into, specifics with somebody. Maybe you've gotten discouraged, and I know why. So what you can say is, I'm not just your friend, I'm your leader. I want you to get your song back. I know your gifts. I know your talents. And you guys be specific, because prayerfully you know your people, what you want. Or maybe you're talking to yourself right now, right? Coach yourself. What you've forgotten. You've gotten discouraged, and I know why. I'm going to sing your song back to you. You want this. I'm not going to let you stay where you're at. You guys, you can move people when they trust you and you know them. You don't just call them out and say, well, go book 10 parties. That makes them mad. We know what to do, right? Everybody knows what to do. It's just a matter of why they're not doing it. But you guys, maybe today you need to sing somebody's song back to them, or maybe today you need to sing your song back to yourself. And just know who you are, your identity. Know that you're a level 4 dedication. And because you are that person, you guys, you're going to figure it out. There was a leadership conference. Joanne Cunnington was retiring. And we were living in Michigan. And the conference was in Houston. And there was a huge snowstorm across the country. The airport in Atlanta was shut down. Okay, no flights in, no flights out. I got an email in Michigan. I was flying out of Flint, which was about a half an hour 45 minutes from where I lived. And I got an email stating that my flight had been canceled and it would fly out 4 days later. Well, you guys all know that leadership, if I was flying out 4 days later, I would have missed leadership. So I said, well, that's not going to work. And you couldn't get through, you guys. I was on hold for hours with the airlines because I'm serious. Airports were shut down. So I just got dressed. I got packed. And Ryan's like, where are you going? I said, I'm going to drive to Flint and I'm going to get on an airplane. And he's like, oh my goodness. I said, yep, I'll see you. I'll call you when I get to Houston. And he's like, okay. So you guys, level 4 dedication, right? I drove to Flint. Get there, flights are canceled. And so I get emotional and my lip starts to quiver and I know that tears are welling up in my eyes and I'm like, no, I have to get to Houston. I have a conference. And I just kept going back, you guys. I would sit down, I would go back up every 15, 20 minutes. And when they changed shifts, I would talk to another person. You guys, I got on a plane. I got on one plane that was leaving Flint and going to Atlanta. They said, we don't know how you're going to get from Atlanta to Houston, but we can get you to Atlanta. So you guys, I said, great, I'm one step closer. So I got on the plane. Was it safe? I don't know. I didn't die. So I got to Atlanta and of course, you guys, tons of flights canceled. There are Mary Kay people there though. So of course, we just all find each other. These are people, I don't even know who they are. I still don't know who they are. And we're like, we could rent a car. We could get on a bus. All these different things. And, but we just, same thing, level of dedication, you guys. Those women that made it to Atlanta had level 4 dedication. And so we just kept going up. I said, well, this worked in Flint. Maybe we can just keep doing it. We just kept going up. We just kept going up, you guys. And, I got on a flight. I missed like our fun beach house that we had in Galveston. I got there like late that night, but I made it to leadership, you guys. And of course I called Ryan and he wasn't surprised, you know? And so you guys, where's your level of dedication? Is it a 1 where you're just in it because what's in it for me? Is it a 2 where if something gets uncomfortable or your plans or flights get changed, you know, that you're going to be like, oh, okay, I'm not supposed to be doing this, right? Right? You guys, maybe you're supposed to be doing it. And that's why you're being given these struggles. Or level 3, you guys, you're going to, you know, you're in it. Your heart is in it. Or level 4, where you are really in it, where you're willing to get your heart broken because you believe in this opportunity and people so much. And you guys, you know, sometimes you're going to want it more than others, but you're going to find the people that want it as badly as you. And you're going to be that legacy leader. You're going to carry on this opportunity. You guys, I posted something on my Facebook page yesterday, Mary Kay's Words of Wisdom. And, you know, she talked about success and she said it's determination. It's perseverance. It's work. You know, it's not just thinking about it. It's not just saying, yes, Nikki, I'm a level 4 dedicated person, you guys, without putting the work behind it. You know, I trained last night on Mary Kay's first training in 1963 of her new consultant training. And do you know that she would not give people a starter kit unless they had their first 8 parties booked in 2 weeks. Then they got their starter kit. You guys, Mary Kay was one of the hardest workers you've ever met. If you haven't read her book, you guys, I would highly recommend reading it again. And her life, you guys, her life was crazy. And yet she kept going. You guys, what makes our business different, and Stacey James talked about this a lot, and so did the Nationals, we have a Mary Kay. You guys, these other companies that are coming out, you know, other direct sales, you know, they're great. And I know people are making money, and I have many friends that are making money doing it. But they don't have the legacy that our company has. They don't have the legacy that you and I have been called to carry on. You guys, we're not just driven people. We are called. We're called to do this. We're called to share this amazing business and to carry on Mary Kay's legacy. And so I pray that each and every one of you are a level 4 dedicated person, because you're first that level, you guys, and then you become the accolades, right? You become the Cadillac director, you become the top director, you become all those different things because of your level of dedication, and you just never give up. So ladies, you guys, always pay the price to be in the space of powerful people. You know, I didn't know if I was going to go to Miami until probably 3 weeks before I decided. And I'm so glad I did, you guys, because God just gives you what you need when you need it. So I am just assuming everybody's registered for seminar, and talk to your people and ask them where their level of dedication is to Mary Kay. And Jamie Lopez, you know, reminded me of this, and I thought it was so good. When you're having a business orientation, you know, a business planning session with your new team members, just ask them what they want. Ask them what they want. And honestly, you guys, I'm going to start asking where their level of dedication is, you know, and maybe you want to check that yourself and just pray that you can increase that level of dedication by increasing your attitude of gratitude, by listing off why you love Mary Kay and why you think it's an amazing company, you guys, and that we can carry on the legacy. So thank you for getting on this Google Hangout today. And you guys, it is only May 17th. Nothing happens less than the score at halftime. So just some reminders before we wrap up is, you know, the new products are available, so get that out to your people. And also all your eyes, you guys, this month, I1, I2, and I3 get a free pore minimizer, a $27 free product when they order from the company. So what I've been doing is having my assistant text that out every week, you guys. She sends them a text every single week reminding them that they've been chosen by the company to receive this free gift. And so that's going on. And then you guys, of course, your brains are already going to June, but you're going to finish up an amazing May. And you guys just do whatever it takes, you guys, to raise your confidence to a level 10 so that you can attract level 10 people and work in your strengths. Don't study anybody else's, you guys. God made you who you are. These are the talents he gave you, and embrace them. And you don't have to apologize, you guys. This is who you are. This is who God made you. And you know what? It's amazing. You're amazing. You are enough. So you guys, thank you for getting on this Tuesday morning, and have an amazing, because you are amazing, May 17th. Bye, everybody.